What if the biggest mistake older travelers make in 2026 is assuming airport help is just a favor? Because that is exactly what airlines want you to believe. If you are over 60 or traveling with someone who is flying, can feel more exhausting than ever. Longer walks, crowded terminals, confusing policies, extra fees at every step. After a while, many people start believing stress is normal, discomfort is unavoidable, and any kind of help is simply a courtesy. But that is not always true. In many cases, it is a right. And that is the part most travelers never hear clearly. Some forms of airport help, seating support, and travel accommodations may already be protected under federal law. The problem is that airlines do not go out of their way to remind you. They count on people being too rushed, too overwhelmed, or too polite to ask the right way. So this is not just a travel video. It is your airport playbook for 2026. Because once you know these rights, you stop traveling like someone hoping for kindness and start traveling like someone who knows what the airline may be required to honor. Number 10. The senior fare most people never ask about. One of the biggest mistakes older travelers make happens before they even reach the airport. They assume the price online is the only price available. But that is not always true. Some airlines still offer senior fares, often for travelers 65 and older on certain routes. The problem is that those fares are not always easy to find online, which means many people never even know they existed. And that is how travelers overpay without realizing it. If you call and simply ask, "Do you have any discounts?" you may get a quick no. But if you ask, "Could you please check whether there is a senior fare for a passenger over 65 on this route?" the conversation changes. Now you're asking them to check a specific fare category, not brushing you off with a generic answer. That does not mean it will always be cheaper. Sometimes the online fare is still the best deal, but sometimes the difference is real enough to matter. And that is the lesson. Never assume the first number is the final answer. For older travelers in 2026, one short phone call can mean less money spent, less stress later, and a better start before the trip even begins. Number 9. The free TSA help most older travelers never use. For many people over 60, the most stressful part of flying is not the plane. It is security. The noise, the pressure, the rushed instructions, the fear of holding up the line. And if you use a walker, carry medical equipment, or simply feel anxious in crowded checkpoints, that moment can become overwhelming very quickly. That is why TSA Cares matters. This is a free TSA service for travelers with disabilities, medical conditions, mobility limitations, cognitive concerns, or serious anxiety about screening. If you contact them at least 72 hours before your flight, they can arrange support to help guide you through the process more calmly and clearly. For older travelers, that can change everything. Instead of being pushed through a stressful checkpoint, you may have someone explain each step, help with medical devices, and make the whole process feel less chaotic. In 2026, the travelers who handle airports best are often not the strongest or fastest. They are the ones who prepare before the pressure begins. Number 8. The seat you may not have to pay extra for. Airlines are very good at making comfort feel like a luxury. An aisle seat costs more. Extra legroom costs more. Sitting next to the person helping you often costs more too. But when a seat is tied to a real medical or mobility need, it is no longer just a preference. It can be treated as an accommodation. And that is where many older travelers lose money without realizing it. If you ask, "Can I get an aisle seat?" it sounds like a comfort request. But if you explain that you need quick restroom access for a medical reason, or that arthritis or limited mobility makes standard seating difficult, the situation changes. The same is true if you are traveling with someone who helps you. If a spouse, adult child, or care attendant assists with your medical or mobility needs, sitting together may be necessary, not optional. And here is what many travelers miss. The online seat map is not always the full picture. Some seats may still be controlled at the airport, even when the website makes it look like paying extra is your only option. Do not describe a physical need like a travel preference. The right words can mean less pain, less stress, and a much safer flight. Number 7. The free airport escort service. Most people think is only for VIPs. You have probably seen it before. Someone moving through the airport with an employee guiding them, helping with the bag, and getting them through the terminal without the usual stress. Most travelers assume that kind of help is only for first-class passengers or people paying for a premium service. It is not. If you need help because of a mobility, cognitive, or sensory issue, airlines may be required to provide guided assistance, sometimes called meet and assist, from check-in to the gate, and again after landing through the terminal. For many older travelers, that can make the whole airport feel completely different. No getting lost in a huge terminal, no rushing through a tight connection, no trying to carry a bag, watch the clock, and keep up with the crowd all at once. And the wording matters here too. Do not ask vaguely, "Can someone help me?" Say clearly, "I need guided assistance due to a mobility impairment." That turns a casual question into a formal request. The airport becomes far less intimidating when you stop trying to manage somehow and start using the support that may already exist for you. Number 6. The medical equipment rule that can save you money. Airlines make billions from baggage fees, so most travelers assume every extra bag will cost them. But medical equipment is different. Under federal protections, assistive devices and medical equipment may be exempt from standard baggage fees and may not count the same way as ordinary luggage. That can include items like a CPAP, machine mobility aids, diabetic supplies, or equipment needed to keep medications safe during travel. For older travelers, that is not a small detail. It can mean bringing what you truly need without paying extra just to protect your health. And again, the wording matters. Do not ask as if you are hoping for an exception. State it clearly, "I am traveling with medical equipment that is exempt from baggage fees." It also helps to keep those items separate from normal travel belongings, so there is less confusion at check-in or boarding. Too many older travelers pay extra because they assume every bag follows the same rules. It does not. Number 5. The TSA screening change. Many travelers over 75 never realize they have. A lot of older travelers believe that once you turn 75, airport security becomes almost the same as getting TSA pre-check for free. That is not true. But travelers 75 and older may receive modified screening, and that can still make a real difference. In many cases, it means you may be allowed to keep on light shoes and a light jacket during screening, even though it is not the same as full pre-check. For older travelers, that small change can matter more than it sounds. It means less bending, less rushing, and less physical strain during one of the most uncomfortable parts of the airport. And if you have a pacemaker, joint replacement, insulin pump, or another medical device, you should tell the TSA officer before screening begins. There is another detail many people do not know if additional screening is required. You can ask to be seated during a pat-down if that would make you more stable or comfortable. Even small accommodations can make security feel much less exhausting when you know they exist. Number 4. The right to board before the crowd starts pushing. For many older travelers, boarding is one of the most stressful moments of the entire trip. The line forms early. People crowd the gate. Everyone worries about overhead bin space. And if you move more slowly, deal with pain, or simply need more time to get settled, that pressure can feel overwhelming very fast. But many older travelers still do not realize they may have the right to pre-boarding if they need extra time because of a disability or mobility limitation. And that can change the entire start of the flight. Pre-boarding gives you time to walk down the jet bridge without being rushed. Find your seat without a crowd behind you and place your bag overhead before space starts disappearing. For someone with balance issues, joint pain, or age-related mobility concerns, that is not about convenience. It is about reducing strain and avoiding chaos. The request can be simple. I'd like to request pre-boarding because I need extra time to get to my seat and get settled. Sometimes the smartest move is not keeping pace with everyone else. It is giving yourself a calmer start. Number 3. Why a cancellation does not always put you at the back of the line. When a flight is canceled, the airport changes in seconds. Lines get longer. Tempers rise. Everyone rushes to rebook at once. And for many older travelers, that chaos can feel even more draining than the flight itself. But if you have already identified yourself as a passenger needing assistance, the airline may have a greater duty to address your needs during major disruptions, including rebooking and other support connected to your medical or mobility situation. And that matters, because delays hit older travelers differently. Long waits can affect medication schedules, mobility energy, and overall safety. So when a cancellation creates a serious hardship, you should not speak like someone making a routine complaint. You should clearly explain the difficulty the disruption is causing and the help you need. There is another important detail if the disruption is caused by the airline rather than the weather. There may also be added support, such as hotel transportation or meal help, depending on the situation. When travel falls apart, the travelers who know their rights are often the ones who recover fastest. Number 2. Your rights do not end after the plane door closes. A lot of travelers think that once they are stuck on the plane, they have no control. That is not true. If your aircraft is delayed on the tarmac, there are time-based protections that matter. For domestic flights, passengers generally cannot be kept on the plane for more than 3 hours without the chance to get off. For international flights, the limit is typically 4 hours, and after 2 hours, the airline must provide food and water during the delay. For older travelers, this is not just uncomfortable. It can become a real health issue. Long waits without water, food, or proper bathroom access can be much harder when you are managing medication, diabetes, fatigue, or other medical concerns. That is why this right matters. If the delay is dragging on, ask calmly when water and snacks will be provided. And if you need food or water sooner because of a medical reason, say so clearly. Even in one of the most frustrating parts of air travel, you are not without protection. Number 1. The final step most travelers never know to take. So what happens if you ask the right way and the airline still says no? This is where many older travelers feel defeated. They assume the employee has the final word. But that is not always true. Every airline is required to have access to a complaint resolution official, often called a CRO. This is the person trained to handle problems involving disability-related air travel rights. If an airline employee refuses a reasonable accommodation, asking for a CRO can change the entire conversation very quickly. And if the problem is still not fixed at the airport, there is one more step. You can file an official complaint with the U.S. Department of Transportation. That matters because it creates a formal record and requires the airline to respond in writing. rather than letting the issue disappear into ordinary customer service. For older travelers, this final point may be the most important lesson of all. Because rights only protect you when you are willing to use them. That does not mean being rude. It means staying calm, speaking clearly, and understanding that you are not asking for special treatment. You are asking the airline to honor what the law already requires. If you are flying after 60 in 2026, the biggest mistake you can make is believing that airport help depends on luck, kindness, or how nice the staff happens to be that day. Because in many cases, it does not. Some of the most important support older travelers may need, from senior fares and seat accommodations to guided assistance pre-boarding and help during delays, may already be protected. The real problem is that most people never hear that clearly, never ask the right way, and never realize how much stress they could avoid by knowing the rules before the trip begins. And that is why this matters. Because once you understand these airport rights, you stop walking into the airport feeling rushed, uncertain, and powerless. You ask smarter questions, you protect your comfort, you reduce unnecessary stress, and you travel with far more confidence than most people ever do. This is not about asking for special favors. It is about refusing to travel without the support you may already be entitled to.